today to speak about my journey to Vimy. My name is Jeriann Hsiao. I was born and raised in Brantford, and I graduated from Brantford Collegiate Institute last year. And currently, I am studying nanotechnology engineering at the University of Waterloo. Next slide, please. Last April, I traveled with 19 other youth from across Canada to Belgium and France to study the First World War on the Vimy Foundation's Vimy Pilgrimage Award program. Next slide, please. Most of you probably think that my journey began with my love and passion for history. But history wasn't my favorite subject in school, mostly because I felt disconnected from it, and I struggled to identify why it was necessary to study people who had died a long time ago and who were nothing like me. At least, that's what I thought before one rainy day in grade 11, when my history teacher took my class out of the classroom to visit the cenotaph. I had never examined it closely before, but looking at all those names, I couldn't help but feel a connection to the past. These were men and women who had walked along the same streets I do now, who attended the same school I did, who were not much older than me when they made the ultimate sacrifice. Next slide. Our teacher told us to look at the poster she had given each of us before we left school. It was a Vimy 100 poster, like this one here. Despite my little knowledge about the Vimy Memorial, I knew of its importance. So when my history teacher told us that the same architect who designed this beautiful memorial, Walter Allward, also designed the Grant County War Memorial, I was shocked. Why would such a renowned architect agree to design something for Brantford? Well, she answered my question. The combined communities of Brantford, Grant County, and Six Nations had the largest per capita enlistment rate in the First World War. This blew all my perceptions of Brantford being historically insignificant out of the water. In that moment, I had a second foreign feeling, pride in my hometown. I remember looking down at that picture of the Vimy Memorial and thinking, it would be so cool if I could visit this memorial one day in the future. Next slide. I didn't know that it wouldn't be very far into the future, just the next year. Next slide. After a week of seeing some of the most significant battlefields, museums, memorials, and cemeteries of the First World War in Belgium and France during the Vimy Pilgrimage Award program, I visited Vimy. Next slide. We arrived at the Vimy Memorial early in the morning at 8 a.m. We were all disappointed when we saw how foggy it was outside, as you can see in this picture here. But reflecting on it now, it was the best weather for a visit to Vimy. When we disembarked our bus, our chaperones took all of our cell phones away and forbid us from talking. So, in absolute silence and in complete awareness of our surroundings, we walked down a path in the stillness of early morning. It was so foggy outside that we didn't know that we were approaching the memorial until we were standing right in front of it. I can still remember how it felt to see those two beautiful white pillars just materialize in front of my very eyes. Walking up these stairs, standing beside Mother Canada, feeling the cool morning breeze, seeing the fog that mimicked what the landscape might have looked like with all the shelling that occurred here 100 years ago, hearing absolutely nothing when 100 years ago the only sounds you could have heard were guns firing and shells exploding all around you, and looking out at the battlefield where so many Canadians lost their lives in a battle that defined Canada's First World War legacy was the most incredible moment of my life. It was extremely emotional to look at 11,000 Canadians' names on the Vimy Memorial and know that these men's bodies had never been found. When you see the number 11,000 in a history textbook, you can distance yourself from the past. But when 11,000 individual names are laid out in front of your very eyes and wrap around this massive memorial that you can't see the end to the names, I don't think you can leave this memorial unchanged. Next slide. One of my goals on this program was to locate the graves or names of BCI students who had been killed in the First World War and who are commemorated on this memorial plaque. I had walked by this memorial plaque every single day of high school since the first day of grade 9, but sometimes it's easy to forget that these names belong to actual people. I wanted to restore humanity to these names for not only myself, but also for my peers. So during this program, I located 2 students' graves and 8 students' names on memorials. And 4 of their names are on the Vimy Memorial. Next slide. William Falconer Battersby was a major and a mining engineer. He was awarded the Military Cross for handling 8 machine guns and inflicting damage on 2 enemy field gun batteries in Courcelette. In Courcelette. He died at the age of 38 near Peron, which was where we had stayed overnight just a couple of days before. And his body was never found, and his portrait is in the BCI library. William Edgar Simpson was a bank clerk before becoming a private. He went missing at the age of 19, and he was presumed to have been killed, and his body was never found. Also, as a side note, there's a red backpack right there in the photo. I had my backpack signed by BCI staff and students before I left the program so I could take my school with me on this journey. Next slide. Harold Sidney White was an apprentice of civil engineers and previously a carrier for the Brantford Expositor before becoming a private. He went missing at the age of 18 and, like Simpson, was presumed to have been killed, and his body was also never found. Next slide. Maurice Fiskin-Wilkes was a University of Toronto graduate and barrister and solicitor before becoming a lieutenant. He went missing at the age of 24, was presumed to be dead, and his body has not been found since. Next slide. After an hour of quiet reflection and locating these students' names, we walked towards the Vimy Visitor Center. Along the way, I was shocked by how scarred the landscape remains from shelling that occurred 100 years ago. Seeing how deep each of these craters were made me extremely sad because it reminded me of how cruel and destructive our world can be. But it also made me hopeful because new life is reclaiming this scarred landscape. Next slide. We visited the Vimy tunnels and trenches next. I had only read about them or saw them in grainy black and white images. But there's no textbook that can match being able to walk through actual tunnels and trenches used by soldiers 100 years ago. Experiencing them in full color in real life helped me better understand the soldiers' experience. We then left the Vimy Memorial to visit a souterrain nearby called Maison Blanche, named after the White House that stands on top of it in the back of this photo. We descended into this pit and went 11.5 millimeters below ground. A souterrain is more like an underground city with very high ceilings and lots of corridors and little chambers, like you see here, than a tunnel system that is claustrophobic and tight. This souterrain is particularly special because it contains untouched, original soldier graffiti from the First World War. It was the best moment of my life and the coolest thing I've ever done. Unfortunately, Maison Blanche is not open to the public, but I have pictures to show you, so it's like you're basically there, but without the danger that the ceiling will fall on your head and kill you, or that the live ammunition will explode and kill you. So you're welcome. Next slide. One of the prominent themes throughout the soldier graffiti was military pride, best exemplified through soldiers' carvings of their cap badges. It was amazing to see the level of detail they put into their works and how accurately it matches the actual cap badge. Next slide. Our guide told us that this carving on the left is most likely the best piece of soldier graffiti that exists in France from the First World War. Again, the level of detail is absolutely stunning, and the fact that none of these carvings were behind glass and we could get as close as we wanted to made the experience extra special. Experiencing Maison Blanche humanized the soldiers of the First World War for me because I realized how they were people with talents and abilities, which was never how I thought of them before. Next slide. My visit to Vimy was incredibly special because we visited the memorial on the 101st anniversary of the Battle of Vimy Ridge on April 9th, so we were able to attend the Vimy Day ceremony. I experienced many emotions as I witnessed this ceremony on the land where so many Canadians lost their lives. Next slide. But I was completely at a loss for words when during the ceremony it started to rain, like that day in grade 11. My mind flashed back to that rainy day in grade 11 when I went on a tour of my hometown to see our cenotaph designed by Walter Allward and engraved with the names of 10 students from my high school. And now, 1 year later, I was standing in front of his crowning achievement after locating those 10 students' graves and names in France and Belgium. Next slide. We visited Vimy a final time at night to conclude our program. Seeing the spotlights turn on and illuminate the Vimy Memorial was the perfect way to end my journey because it depicts the importance of remembrance and never forgetting the past, but also a message of a brighter, more peaceful future. I carry this message with me wherever I go, and I always share it at the end of each presentation I have given since returning home. I hope that today you see that a new generation is picking up the torch of remembrance. We will not forget these men and women who gave their lives in the horrors of war, and we will never let them be repeated 100 years later and forevermore. Lest we forget. Thank you for listening.